DraftKings has released their 2022 NFL DFS Week 1 salaries, and we'll take a deep dive at the wide receivers, giving our initial thoughts on who to target and who to avoid coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lay.
I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. We'll be giving our initial takes of Week 1 main slate on DraftKings, and in this video, we are covering wide receivers. You will find links also to the other Week 1 DraftKings and FanDuel shows that we discuss main slate players in other positions.
Now, a word of caution, news will come out after we post this video that will alter some of our opinions, which is why we'll be releasing a full DraftKings Week 1 cash lineup and our favorite GPP plays closer to the start of the season. So if you haven't yet, please hit the red subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any of our content.
A request from our FFC community. We want to hear from you in the comment section, so please tell us your favorite DraftKings wide receiver on the main slate in Week 1 and reasons why. Eric, let's go in the studio and tell them our thoughts.
All right, Michael, on DraftKings at wide receiver, we're going to always look for those bargains at the other positions and things that will pop up, and there will be bargains. Guys that DraftKings did not think were starters, guys that will be named starters, even at the wide receiver position, that will be as cheap as $3,000, that may provide an ability to pay up for some of these guys. So if you do have that ability, Michael, and when you're looking at, say, the first 7,000 and above, who do you like the most, given their price?
Well, I mean, I really like Justin Jefferson. He's a little bit more expensive than he is on FanDuel. I think for a high floor with that upside, I'd probably go with Justin Jefferson. Eric, you?
I'd go Keenan Allen. I'll save the $800 in the fact that this is a full PPR on DraftKings. And this guy was number 8 among all wide receivers last year in targets. He is going to get his catches. And every time he gets this catch, it's a full point. This is a high-scoring shootout game, 52 over under. He moves the chains. His route running ability and in general, his hands, really good, really good. And I know Herbert trusts him. Quickly about some of the other guys, my concerns. I know you're a big Raider guy, but I just don't know how they're going to use Devontae Adams. He's not in a ridiculously high price, $8,100. I mean, he's cheaper than all those top running backs, but I think he should be. But I probably am not going to spend up for him at $8,100 until I kind of see he's going to have a big role, but will he have a dominating role like he did in Kansas, like he did in Green Bay?
But yeah, you're right. Devontae Adams, well, I do know how they're going to use him. Why wouldn't you use him as your number one guy? It's just a little early to see whether or not Carr can make some of the similar. We know he's not the same guy, magic that Aaron Rodgers did.
Yeah. So let's go down a little bit then. Under $7,000. I kind of like Keenan Allen a little bit more in cash, but if this is GPP, I like Mike Williams at $6,600 for his big play ability. He is a big and fast guy. He actually got more yards and touchdowns than Keenan Allen last year, and I expect him to play a big role. Under 7,000, who are some of your favorites?
Well, there's a lot of red flags all over the place. To just save $1,000 and go with TYREEK, who's in a new environment and sharing time with JAYLEN Waddle. You know, that covers JAYLEN Waddle as well, who's going to have to sharing, receptions with TYREEK. McLaurin has a new quarterback.
And can I say, and both have to catch passes from Tua. I am not sold on Tua. I think Hill said some type of remark, which was absolutely absurd, saying that Tua was better than Mahomes in some aspect. I think he said he was more accurate.
I think he said he's better with his left hand. Not much, though.
Yeah, that's crazy. He's going to realize how much he's going to miss Mahomes. His strong arm, I think, is one of the biggest things, how he can hit him in stride 50 yards down the field. Yeah. So what are some other concerns of the other players you have?
So Terry McLaurin has a new quarterback. I think that's an upgrade, but it's just a new situation. Although I think he's probably the one I like most on the list.
I kind of like this range. If you make the decision that, hey, I'm not going to pay up for the top guys, you're probably in this range. They definitely have question marks. We have 3 Browns here.
One of the same Brown, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's and I think they're all are reasonable. Probably my favorite, as long as he is playing, because he got caught speeding on the highway, is Hollywood Brown at $6,200, and which I think is going to be a really nice shootout, and without DeAndre Hopkins. But what about Brandin Cooks? Because this guy was so consistent last year, and Houston constantly gets behind. I think he may be very interesting at 6,300. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, DraftKings full PPR, he still has most of the speed that he had when he was at the Rams, and it became clear that he was the trusted guy to go to in Houston. Maybe to some extent, it's a better situation for him from a fantasy perspective than it was with the Rams. So yeah, I actually just kind of glossed over him because it's so hard to not want to pay attention to guys from Houston and Detroit.
Yeah, and I don't think Davis Mills is a bad quarterback. I'm not saying he's the top of the league, but I think he's closer to average than he is at the bottom. And if you believe that, I'm telling you, Cooks is going to be his favorite target. All right, let's go down to the next segment. Taking over the number 1 wide receiver in Allen Lazard. Michael Thomas is coming off a major injury, but both of the 2 guys I just mentioned are in excellent matchups.
I'm actually looking a little bit further up the list at DJ Moore and DeVonte Johnson as guys who led their teams in targets. Yes, the new quarterback situation for both, but one might argue that they're both upgraded situations, especially in PPR league like we have with DraftKings.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who I'm a no on. I am not hanging out with Mr. Cooper. Amari Cooper, and it's no offense to Cooper, it's a full offense to Jacoby Brissett. Deshaun Watson is not playing, and I just expect that offense will be very conservative. And so I'm not interested in Cooper. You haven't mentioned your Raider, Hunter Renfrow. I mean, he was the number 1 wide receiver. Devontae Adams is the one that's most expensive on DraftKings. Any interest on Hunter Renfrow at a major discount here compared to Adams?
Yeah, no, I think he'll still get his catches. I think if I was going to go try and pick that game because I really wanted someone out of that game, I think I would go Renfrow. I think it's quite possible that Renfrow has a similar game in terms of fantasy points than Devontae Adams does. Certainly doesn't have the upside, but his floor, I think, is very similar in a PPR league like DraftKings.
All right, let's go to the next tier to see if there's anybody that would interest us. We're getting to pretty reasonable prices, but we still have guys I think that are in good situations. I'm going to pick my favorite out of here, RASHOD Bateman, $5,300. That's close to a steal there. He's going to be the number 1 wide receiver for Baltimore in a matchup. I expect them to put plenty of points on the board. I know Mark Andrews is probably Jackson's favorite target, but he's going to throw to his wide receiver 1. Remember, Hollywood Brown is gone. He is not on Baltimore anymore.
Yeah, in the weeks where Hollywood Brown was out or out for part of the game last year, but Bateman, performed, fantastically. He's young, fresh legs. He's just going to continue to get better. But I look a little bit further up the list to Pittman. I think Pittman's getting an upgrade at the quarterback position. He's the clear number 1, or at least he has been up to this point. PPR league against a really bad defense. I feel pretty good about Pittman's floor this week.
I think it's an excellent call. He's not only is he my favorite in this tier, he may have been one of my favorites in the tier above that we just went through. So great call there. Michael, I want to briefly talk about Adam Thielen. This is a guy, he's getting up there in age, and Justin Jefferson is now clearly the #1 wide receiver, but he's not dead. And he still has a rapport with Kirk Cousins. And since they're going to price him down this far at only 5,400, I mean, he's the same price on the guy who's absolutely not going to play in DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know why they're throwing so much disrespect his way. He continues to be a huge goal line threat. And $2,400 cheaper in a good shootout potential game, 49 over and under. Don't sleep on Thielen here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think obviously he had the injury that affected him during the season, a couple injuries actually. So I think that's part of what's going on there, but he seems to be healthy, has historically been healthy. I think he's also someone to take a look at in future weeks. Anyone else down the list calling your name though, Eric?
Let's go down to 5,200 and scroll down and see if there's any last call that we have of the folks. Christian Kirk is interesting just because they backload a truckload of money, $18 million per year for him. He clearly should be the #1 receiver. It depends on how much you trust Trevor Lawrence. I don't. I'll have a wait and see, even though it's a pretty good matchup. The guy I trust more at quarterback than Trevor Lawrence is some guy named Pat Mahomes. And JUJU Smith-Schuster is in this range at $5,200. So I would pull the trigger on him if I feel like that he should be the #1 wide receiver, at least the #1 targeted wide receiver. Obviously, Kelsey will be the #1 targeted player. And then finally, I'll throw in keep a close eye on Drake London. He's the rookie on Atlanta. DraftKings is giving him away at $5,000. Remember, Calvin Ridley suspended. Russell Gage gone. So he very well beat me the #1 wide receiver on Atlanta, and maybe worth a flyer at $5,000.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. We need to look for rookies all season long who will be playing out, but it's so hard to do that in week 1 of any season. I think Smith-Schuster is a little bit scary, is trying to be a replacement for TYREEK because he just doesn't have the speed. But in a PPR league, you know, he's a possession receiver. Yeah, his receptions were down last year, but that I think had more to do with how Deontay Johnson was treated more favorably than it was, you know, Smith-Schuster not being trustworthy. He still is kind of the better hands of the pair. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Jarvis Landry in New Orleans as well. But you know, with Michael Thomas back, I think that you know, Jarvis Landry continues to underperform what we all thought he would be in the NFL.
I think the big question is, what is the health of Michael Thomas? Because if Michael Thomas turns out, which is he's done over and over and over again, not to be ready to play, then I think Landry is interesting down here at only $5,000. I think the big picture that I'm taking away from the wide receivers on DraftKings is there are a lot of guys in the $5,000 range that are very reliable. I think that I think we would strongly consider starting from Michael Pittman to JUJU Smith-Schuster, so which will allow you to potentially pay up. We mentioned like Adam Thielen. There's a bunch of guys in that range. Pay up at running back or potentially tight end and quarterback. So can't wait till later in just a few weeks where we put together a full cash lineup and talk about specific GPP plays in DraftKings. And until then, check out some of these videos where we take a look at the other positions on DraftKings as well as on FanDuel. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.